Alright. Verdant Conflict, set review time. All the cards are revealed. I've had a read through them real quick, have my general thoughts on each one. There's a lot to get through, so let's not waste any time. Amitaz, Fairy Blader. You have at least 2 fairies in your hand, gain +1/+1 and ward. 4, 1/1 Mourn and Bane. 6, 1/1 and Storm to all fairies in your hand. This seems doable. This one, a bit less so, and this one is a little optimistic. I'm not sure how hopeful I am for Amitaz to form a new fairy storm finisher here. You know, you only have so much board space as well. But I think this alone makes it a pretty neat card, honestly. Like, you can just fairy circle, or there's quite a few fairy generators as well in this set for Forestcraft. Latika, the Stoneclaw, we've talked about this card already. I think it's strong in what it does, but the downside of it is that it doesn't really advance any win condition for Forestcraft, which they were missing in rotation till now, but with the return of Airborne Barrage, I think that position is mostly going to be taken up by Whirlwind Rhinoceros. Although, if Amitaz can make a finish happen, I'll be happy with that as well. Irene Harvest Defender, 3/3/3. If at least 4 other cards are played this turn, evolve this follower. Evolve Ward can attack 2 times per turn, strike until the end of the turn, reduce damage to this follower to 0. Actually pretty cool. Great stats. If you're playing Whirlwind Rhinoceros, you're playing a lot of cheap stuff anyhow. Seems doable. And even if you don't get the effect off, it's just a solid body. Avatar of Fruition. Fanfare, put a fairy into your hand. If an allied Natura and Great Tree is in play, put 2 fairies into your hand instead and gain Rush. So, more fairy generation here. Effect that it has without any Natura and Great Trees is pretty underwhelming, honestly. The stat line that can get pinged off by a magic missile. But the effect with the Great Tree makes it a lot more of an option if you're wanting to run like an Amitaz deck or something like that. I will say Amitaz and Latika do kind of work with each other, right? Because Latika also synergizes with having fairies in your hand. So if your deck is revolving around a Natura-style Forestcraft deck running, I've already forgotten his name, Amitaz, Latika, and maybe you run this as well for more fairies in hand. A much better Fairy Whisperer for that kind of deck. Elven Pikeman, 4/2/3 Storm, last words, deal 2 damage to the enemy leader. Okay. Aggro Forest is getting some cards, kind of like that. Stats are obviously not great for 4, but you can evolve it on your evolve turn, which is kind of nice. And the last words, of course, damages as well. How effective this is going to be if Ilana is still a thing, yet to be determined. I don't know about that. Hopefully, Aggro Forest does make a comeback, but I wouldn't hold my breath if this is pretty much the only card for it right now. Blossom Spirit, 2/1/3 at the end of your turn. If an allied Natura and Great Tree is in play, summon a fairy. Whenever an allied fairy comes into play, give it +1/+1. Actually pretty cool. Can work with Amitaz with this effect if you want to buff your fairies even more. Although you're kind of running out of board space at that point, but yeah, I do like the effect. Especially since it's a 2 play point 3/5, basically, which is it's just good. This is the Ether card for Forestcraft. Every class gets an Ether. If you're playing a tree deck, then this is the card for you. And for Forestcraft in particular, it's just good to have cards that recover play points here so that you can play more cards in a turn for that 4 or more cards played in a turn to get those effects procced as well. So I feel like the 5 effect on this has an additional dimension for Forestcraft that maybe it doesn't for the other classes. That's cool. The 10th turn effect of drawing 2 cards, I just don't know if that's going to be super relevant. I'm not too hopeful for Fairy, Natura, Board Flood, Forest. Maybe there's some more creative application of these cards that a Forest main can figure out. I'm more excited about Whirlwind Rhinoceros for sure. Wily Puck, we talked about this. Crystallize 1, Countdown 3. I think the Crystallize effect is probably better than the Fanfare. The Fanfare just seems really slow. It's a 4 play point Fairy Whisperer. No thanks. I think generally this card probably won't see any play at all. Wily Puck, probably out of luck. Elven Sentry, Rush, Fanfare, gain +1/+1 for each fairy in hand. I think this card's only okay. Again, it's for that fairy in hand deck. It's probably not that good. Okay, move on. Ghastly Treant. This is the 2 play point bronze Natura tree generator, which I think every class has. For Forestcraft, it's going to put a fairy into your hand if 2 other cards were played this turn. Which this is why kind of indicates to me that Natura and this fairy generation deck are meant to be played together. Man, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Amazaz is gonna make stuff work. And Airborne Barrage, obviously, is gonna be amazing because Whirlwind Rhinoceros is a card that exists. Moving on to Swordcraft here. Might be a long video. Swordcraft Regal Wildcat. Accelerate 4, summon a Steelclad Knight, Heavy Knight, and a Knight. At full cost, it has Storm. If at least 10 allied followers have been destroyed this match, give an allied follower +2/+2 and Storm. 1 on Accelerate 4, it's kind of neat. Maybe like a light Celia replacement. On the full cost effect, it's actually amazing, paired alongside Blazing Lion Admiral. You get so much Storm damage and the Lion Admiral buffs as well, so I have high hopes for Regal Wildcat, that's for sure. Moving on, we have Balian Sovereign Light. We've already talked about this card. It's the Swordcraft payoff card for Natura, giving you King's Might, so that you buff the board. If I recall correctly, the whole thing with Swordcraft is that it doesn't really require you to play a lot of Natura. You only really need the 1, so keep that in mind. We're looking at other generators for that tree as well. Mistolina Forest Princess. Accelerate 1, put a Princess's Strike into your hand, which is a 2 play point card that randomly deals 3 damage to the strongest enemy follower, or 5 if you have a tree, and gives Storm to Mistolina. So, full cost, it has Ward, put a Princess Strike into your hand on Fanfare. If you have fewer allied followers than enemy followers, recover 2 play points, which is pretty cool. You get to play Mistolina and then Princess Strike, which will clear, or at least heavily damage, the strongest follower that they got. Give this Storm. You go straight through, or you get a good trade. So you can do a 2-for-1 and have a ward up at the end of it all. Kind of worry about the amount of traits they're juggling here a little bit. And again, the fact that you have the tree on the board, how much can you really play on board as well. The Princess Strike card on 2, dealing 3 to the strongest enemy follower. It's kind of lame. It's only really good with the Natural and Great Tree in play. And then even then, paying 1 Accelerate to get a Predatory Might, it's kind of lame. A conditional Predatory Might. So, I'm really looking forward to this more as just the follower. Elegance in action. Draw a card. Summon a Heavy Knight for each follower drawn. Deal 3 damage to a random enemy follower for each non-follower drawn. Enhance 5. Draw 3 cards instead. It's kind of like a weird, random Unleash the Nightmare. I mean, honestly, it could be. Like, on the 2 effect, just drawing a card and summoning a Heavy Knight is it's not even bad. Or drawing a card and dealing 3 damage to a random enemy follower, also not even bad. The Enhanced 5 is probably pretty heavy for a class like Sword, which just wants to play stuff. But this can summon. I just don't like the fact that it's pretty much random. You can kind of influence it with the way you build your deck, right? Of course, but I'm definitely not going to look forward to when they play this and they just ping off all my stuff. Or when I play this and I just summon Heavy Knights when I needed to ping off all their stuff. The strength of it is actually okay. It's a card draw card for Swordcraft that affects the board. Swift Tigress, 5/4/4, Rush Fanfare. If an allied Natura and Great Tree is in play, recover 3 play points, enhance 8, gain Storm. Yeah, I mean, if you have the tree in play, this is a 2 play point 4/4. Hello? Or a 5 play point 4/4 Storm. It's just a pretty neat card for that archetype, right? The thing with Swordcraft is you don't need to have more than 1 tree, really. There's no payoff like in Rune or in Dragon for destroying a bunch of trees or anything. But having more draws you through your deck and makes it more consistent to play stuff like this card and Balian. So, moving on. Valse. The new Valse is actually amazing. On Evolve, destroying an enemy follower with 3 defense or less with full stats, or enhance 6, banishing an amulet. Costs less than playing the old Valse with Holy Pure Bomb, even though the Fatal Spell Bomb component of the card is less versatile. I think on the whole, this card is pretty great. Tempered Ether. So the 10th turn effect this time is to give +1/+1 to all allied followers. So if you're playing like a mid-range Swordcraft Natura deck, and you have a lot of tools here for it, like the Tigress, Mistolina, and Balian, you need that extra push at the end. You're probably going to be running it anyway in that kind of deck. So Adept Thief, 3/3/3, that you can choose a loot card. Pretty neat also, actually. For a filler card, is actually quite intriguing. And it's got amazing stats, so actually kind of happy with this one. 11 Scholar, 5/3. 4 Ward, randomly put 2 different Levin cards, excluding Levin Scholar from your deck into your hand. Yeah, having a Ward get pulled out of Albert on the Enhanced 9 is actually pretty sick. That's actually very helpful, honestly. And the fact that this can also just act as a draw 2 for a Levin deck as well. I'm glad that Levin's getting support in any case. Lupine Axeman, 2/2/2, the 2-play point tree generator for this class. If there are fewer allied followers, then enemy followers in play recover 1 play point. And this is useful because it synergizes perfectly with Balian as well. So yeah, definitely run this card if you're playing that kind of deck, I think. Mirror Image, we've talked about this before, pretty neat. Can give it to a Storm card and have it just go ham. Alright, now we're on Rune. Runecraft, Apex Elemental. Rune Legendary. Accelerate 1, return an allied amulet to your hand and deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. If it's a tree, deal 3 instead, which is actually great because it synergizes with Riley. Playing more trees and being able to control the board for your inevitable Riley is pretty amazing. And the full effect as well, dealing an AoE instead of an individual damage, is also great. A little heavy though, because this is obviously costing 7. So maybe the Accelerate 1 is more helpful, because the Accelerate 1 would also act as a spell anyway. But in a pinch, the full cost version I can see being played as well. Wish Wielder! Fanfare of this card has been spell boosted 5 times or less. Randomly put 1 of the following cards into your hand. 6 to 11 times, 2 cards. 12, 3 cards. Some pretty amazing cards, actually. Cass, Adramelech, Spawn, Old Spawn, Sylvia, Jiraiya, Ector is in the pool, and Dark Jean. Actually kinda cool. Not even that bad of a stat line, because it is essentially a 3/2/2 draw card. Maybe less valuable than a draw card because it's random, right? But if you're playing a spell boost deck, maybe you're more focused on stuff like just getting your zealots out and winning that way. But if there's ever a moment where a more value-based spell boost deck can be had, I think Wish Wielder is going to come out on top there, because it can just draw you tons of cards that are pretty powerful. I think some of these are more powerful than others. Obviously, I'm very excited about this, especially since it's in the unnerfed version. I just realized that. That's kind of awesome. Don't know if it'll fit in the more straightforward, just hit them with Zealot spell boost, but I like that it's there. Riley, we've talked about this before. Get Free Storm, which is kind of great. Move on. Chaos Wielder, it's like Fate's Hand, but not a spell at all. And the Evolve spell boosts the cards in your hand. This is the card to replace Fate's Hand, because Fate's Hand is rotating out. Like, obviously, Rune is losing Fate's Hand, and you're getting this. You're gonna play this, okay? Let's be honest. Moving on. Pyromancer. If any allied amulets are in play, return 1 to your hand and deal 1 damage to all followers. If the returned card is a natura in a great tree, deal 2 damage instead. Card is actually pretty amazing. Super cheap, vanilla stats with a 2 damage AoE effect. Kind of awesome. It is all followers though. It is all followers. Silent Lab is back. More support for Earthright, which I'm happy to see. It's starting to see a bit of playability now with the new Erasmus and all of them. The art is pretty gorgeous, actually. Honestly. Moving on, Arcane Ether. It's a 0 play point spell for Rune. Okay. Effect is alright. Getting over the top effect when you get to the late game. But the fact that on the 5th turn or later, this just becomes a spell that costs 0, and then you get a tree that draws you a card. It's just good. I think for Rune, the Ether spell is more valuable generally than other classes. Moving on. Geo-Elementalist, a bronze card for Rune here. It's the tree generator. Has a 20 or less effect. You know, if you're playing a lot of trees, you're drawing through your deck, I guess, a lot anyway. Right? So maybe this could be a factor. And if you're playing a tree deck, you play the tree generators. Passionate Potioneer. Select an allied amulet, put a copy of it into your hand, subtract 1 from its cost. Amazing for the tree, because you get a 0 play point tree you can play right away and draw a card. Gigahand Golem. Fanfare, Earthright, gain a rush, and summon a Scrap Golem. Hand 7, +4/+4. I think there's just better stuff to spend your Earth Sigils on, honestly. Magissa, Erasmus, Levi. I don't think this is going to be too big a player. And Mysterian Wisdom, banish a card from your hand and put a copy of that card into your deck. Put a missile and circle into your hand. Kind of awesome. It's a spell that generates 2 useful spells that can help you avoid awkward situations of having a Ryo in hand when you don't want it. Stuff like that. Just a great card. One final thought on Runecraft before we move on is it's kind of weird how Riley really does want to get invoked out with this effect, but the trees draw through your deck, and that might make that less likely. Playing this just as a 9 play point storm is probably going to be okay, but it's obviously not as good as a 0 play point storm, right? So maybe that's a self-balancing factor for Riley there. Alright, moving on to Dragoncraft. We've already talked about Neptune, as you know. I think it's pretty great. Valdane. We've talked about Valdane, but now that more and more trees have been revealed for Dragoncraft, I think Valdane's going to be a really big player. So let's take a look at some of the tree-related cards for Dragoncraft here, starting with Hoarfrost Triceratops, 6/5/5. Fanfare, if any allied natura and great trees are in play, randomly destroy one and destroy an enemy follower. Last words, if there are no allied natura and great trees in play, summon a natura and great tree. So, you can ramp into this. You're destroying a tree, which draws you a card, which you want to do anyway. You're destroying an enemy follower, and it summons another tree. It's pretty good, I think. It's pretty good. My only concern is that it might be a bit cost-heavy. But again, you can ramp into it. I'm liking the fact that these destroy the tree, but kind of regenerate it when it's destroyed itself. So you can kind of keep the chain going. The downside of that being, of course, that your follower would have to be destroyed to keep the chain going. It's going to be a fun little mini game for you to play while you're getting your Shadow's Corrosion to do more and more damage. That's the name of the card. Okay, correct. Moving on. Phoenix Howl. Well, first of all, it's kind of outrageous that this is named Phoenix Howl. Birds don't howl. That's ridiculous. But the card art is amazing. And the card itself is pretty good. 2 AoE only to enemy followers. Then you can deal an additional 2 to something. And you get the value of the Star Phoenix back whenever you play a spell. So you have this essentially for the rest of the game. Your faithful companion. Bubbleborn Mermaid, it's okay. The randomness of getting a Giselle or a Gadget Mermaid makes it a lot less okay. Whirlwind Pteranodon, 3/2/2. Fanfare, if any allied natura and great trees are in play, randomly destroy one and gain an empty play point orb. Last words, if there are no allied natura and great trees in play, summon a natura and great tree. Again, destroying a tree. Summoning a tree. And this one ramps your play points too. So I'm pretty happy with this. I think this is gonna be pretty great. It reminds me a lot of Ayala, but more tree-based, you know? And of course, working with Valdane, I think this is gonna be pretty awesome. Feral Ether. Put a Wind Blast Dragon into your hand on 10. Plus, this is just a tree generator, which you want in this Valdane deck. Card is trash. It's like a worse Forgotten Sanctuary. Dragon Chef. Restore 1 defense to your leader. If you have an amulet, restore 3. So it works with the trees, obviously. Good stats as well. Not a terrible card. If you need more survivability in your tree deck to get the trees going, maybe you run this, but it's not super outstanding. Lightning Velociraptor. Can I just say how I love this expansion? It has freaking dinosaurs in it. Like, it's just all dinosaurs for Dragoncraft. It's a generator for the tree. Gets you more trees. And especially when you get into Overflow, if you're ramping alongside playing trees and stuff, you have the Valdane effect going off. Like, that extra 2 that you're playing down, that's just more damage. More and more damage and draw in the mid-game for you. Pretty great. Dragonute Needler. Deal 3 damage if it's damaged. Deal 1 damage instead if it's not damaged. I think this is kind of bad. Pretty situational. Kind of heavy. If it's not damaged, you're dealing 1 damage for a 5 play point card. No thanks. And now we're on to Shadowcraft. Hello. We're on to Shadowcraft. Lubel. Necro family. Already talked about this card here. It's kind of the Shadowcraft payoff card for natura and great trees, summoning these necrofauna and just being a hassle on the board. Toth. If at least 10 allied cards with last words effects have been destroyed this match, give your leader the following effect. Whenever an allied follower or amulet comes into play, give it last words, deal 2 damage to the enemy leader. Not stackable, lasts for the rest of the match, last words, draw a card. I don't know if it's gonna happen, man. I don't see it happening, honestly. It's gonna be real slow, I'll say that. Unless you're running a lot of really cheap last words cards and you're just playing them out. And then even then, you have to have more things die to deal just 2 damage each. I don't know. But as a 2.12 that has last words, draw a card, I could see some play just for some cycle. Not as good as Fanfare draw a card, but it works with its own effect at least. Moving on, Helios, Sacrosanct Spirit, 3/2/1. Hand 7, evolve. Last words, give your leader the following effect at the end of your opponent's turn. Summon a zombie, then remove this effect. Last words, give your leader the following effect at the end of your opponent's turn. Summon a Lich, then remove this effect. Not full stats on evolve. It gets you a Lich with Storm later, but 7 play point 3/2 with Rush is it's bad. It's bad on that turn. It's really bad. On 3, it's pretty cool because you get the zombie to just go in the turn after. Also works with Toth, of course. Man, if this works. If this works. Immortal Elephant, 5/4/3. Can't be targeted by enemy spells and effects. Last words, give a random allied natura and great tree. Last words, summon an Immortal Elephant. Actually pretty sick. I just worry that you're gonna have a bunch of elephants in that tree and it's gonna get angelic smited and you're gonna be real sad. Guilt, Existential Blader, Excel 1, destroy an allied follower, draw 2 cards, Rush. So full cost, it sucks. Excel 1, it's Soul Conversion, because Soul Conversion's rotating out. So play this as Soul Conversion. Actually, in a lot of ways, this is worse than Soul Conversion. Less flexible later in the game. Night of the Living Dog, which wins prize for best name this expansion, I think. Rush, whenever an allied natura and great tree is destroyed, gain +2/+2. Actually kind of sick. Although keep in mind that the payoff for this is Lubel, and you want to just be summoning the Necrofauna. I'm worried about board space again. Necromantic Ether. Reanimate 4 on the 10th turn or later, which is actually kind of sick. You can get Aisha out of that. Generator for tree deck, plus potential weird synergy at the end there. Soul Snatcher. Necromancy 3, summon a zombie. Pretty okay. Pretty cool in Arena. It's just a board card, really. This is more of an Arena card than anything else. Vengeful Possession, here we go. Enhance 6, gain +2/+2 and Bane, then give Bane to an allied follower. So you get a 6 play point 5/5 with Bane that can give Bane to something else. Stats good, enhance okay. Not sure where it fits. Revenant Ram, 2/2/2, put a tree, gain a shadow. Solid, pretty solid. Actually, the more I think about it, right, like when you're popping off these trees so much, you're getting your shadow count pretty high, right? Is there going to be like a Hades Natura thing going on? It's an interesting experiment. Not so sure about that, but we'll see. And the Lubel generates bodies for you to get more shadows off of too, hey? Lonesome Spectre, 5/5/4. Last words, give your leader the following effect. At the end of your opponent's turn, summon 2 ghosts. Pretty heavy for this. I don't think I like this. Bloodcraft, here we go. Yuzuki, Righteous Demon. Accelerate 2, destroy an enemy follower with 4 defense or less. Deal 2 damage to your leader. Amazing accelerate effect. Destroying a follower with 4 defense or less for 2 play points is incredible. The fanfare of destroying 2 enemy followers, hello. If vengeance is not active for you, recover 2 less play points next turn. Pretty okay effect on 7, actually. It's like a Calamity Bringer with no RNG. That is actually kind of awesome, and it's pretty likely that you're gonna have Vengeance active, right? Like if you have the Lycos Berserker or the Azazel active, play the Yuzuki, and you just take the board. Great answer to Alana boards as well. Cradle Dark Divinity. This effect is very, very long. One thing you'll see with Bloodcraft a lot in this expansion is that a lot of cards are revolved around drawing cards. So now we have card draw blood, kind of the next logical step after Unleash the Nightmare, I guess. The Natura payoff for blood is this card that is discard blood. You draw cards and you deal 4 damage every turn from 7 onwards. Just don't know if it's better than mono. It seems kind of like a meme. If discard blood becomes another viable archetype for blood, that's going to be a wild day. Sharanzaya Masked Mayhem, 5/4/5. Bane Fanfare. If you have 2 cards added to your hand from your deck this turn, give this follower Storm. Pretty conditional, kind of hard to pull off, honestly. You could do it with the Crystallize effect we're about to see. Is Perish rotating out later on in the game with Unleash? I just think the Storm is cool, but it's just kind of, it's too conditional, and I don't know if you can pull it off reliably. This one is what I'm talking about, the Crystallize countdown 1. Last words, if it is your turn, put a random natura card from your deck into your hand. If it is your opponent's turn, draw a card. So you could play this to turn before. Get into your Sharan Zaya. Full cost effect here, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. If an allied natural great tree is in play, deal 2 damage to all enemy followers instead. Again, pretty good. Lots of AoE here. Without the tree, a lot less good, obviously. With the tree, actually pretty solid. Yuna, Vampire Seeker, 4/4/4. Draw cards until there are 5 cards in your hand. Now this card is exciting. Makes me think of aggro blood. Is that gonna be a thing where you just put everything on the board all the time, and then you wanna restock, so you just play Yuna? I don't know if there are the cards to support an aggro blood right now, especially when so many of Blood's cards are so great in keeping your hand size high while developing. And you know what card I'm talking about there. But cool tool for a potential future kind of deck. Frenzied Werewolf, Rush, Fanfare. If you have a tree, gain Bane. It's okay. Lunatic Ether, 10th turn or later. Deal 3 damage to the enemy leader and restore 3 defense to your leader. Actually amazing. If you save the Ether for that long, that is. You know, if you're playing a tree deck, for some reason you want to make the Cradle of Dark Divinity work out, having the Lunatic Ether is going to be in there anyway, and the 10th turn effect there is actually pretty great. 2/1/2, Fanfare, draw a card. Good card. Ogre Champion, 3/3/3. If at least 2 cards are added to your hand from your deck this turn, deal 3 damage to an enemy follower. Damn. Card draw blood is a thing. Pretty solid. It's good stats. Great damage for that Fanfare. If card draw blood becomes a thing, how many archetypes does blood need? How many do they need? Corrupted Vat, 2/2/2. Fanfare, put a Natura and Great Tree into your hand. Hold up, wait a minute. Okay, from your deck. From your deck, okay. I was thinking about the tree. Alright, got a little worried. Put a Natura and Great Tree into your hand. If Vengeance is active for you, gain +1 and Ward. That's the 2 play point tree generator, right? Vengeance getting +1 and Ward, it's not that great. Deal with the Devil, deal 5 to a random allied and random enemy, and you both draw a card. Actually kinda nice. More ways, in more classes, to deal with Leod. It's not random strongest, it's just random enemy followers. So if they flood the board, you're kind of upset about that. It's cool, but pretty obvious downside, right? Havencraft, got some cool cards here. Daffodil, Muse Princess. Fanfare, put a Natura and Great Tree into your hand. In hand 7, put 3, and recover 3 play points. Whenever 1 comes into play, summon a Muse Knight if you don't have a Muse Knight. Buff it up by playing more trees. And it's also getting buffed up by, of course, Elysian Saint Hairs. And the fact that you're breaking a bunch of trees synergizes with Agnes, which we'll talk about in a bit. So, individually, this card I would have been like, alright. But with everything else, I think this is pretty exciting. And you also get Strike, recover 1 play point if you evolve it, which means you get to play the tree too. Iridescent Sphinx, more Amulet cards. Good that Amulet Haven's getting some support here. I'm pretty excited. It's finally Featherfolk Gardener's time to shine and constructed. Crystallize 3, countdown 2, last word, summon a Tutankhamun. Ward Fanfare, summon a Tutankhamun, give it Ambush. With City of Gold, that Crystallize is going to be pretty sick. 8 is pretty heavy, but the Crystallize is what you're really looking for here. Can evolve something as well on that turn. So you're developing quite a bit, especially since Tutankhamun has that revivability clause, right? Can always come back. Master Adjudicator, 5/5/4. Crystallize 2, countdown 3, summon a Master Adjudicator. Rush Strike. If you can evolve and have more evolution points than your opponent, reduce the damage to this follower to 0 until the end of the turn. Not too excited about that 5 play point one, but that Crystallize may be a factor if you're running an Amulet Havencraft deck, especially with City of Gold. Wouldn't count this one out. Moving along, Agnes. This is the card. This is the real payoff for Havencraft right now. 8/4/5 Storm. Whenever an allied amulet is destroyed, subtract 1 from the cost of this card. If it's a tree, subtract 1 more. So you can get this down pretty fast. You're playing Muse and playing a bunch of trees. Drawing through your deck, getting Agnes, reducing the cost of Agnes, playing Agnes, hitting them in the face. And your mouse is a huge hassle too. Pine Holy Police, 1/1/2. Give an allied follower a rush and deal 1 damage to that follower. Solid stat 1 drop that gives something a rush and can easily be weaved in with the rest of your curves. So this is actually amazing. Featherfolk Punisher. We've already talked about this one, I think. Now that we have a greater context of what kind of trees and amulets Havencraft is getting this expansion, I think it's kind of coming together. I could see building a deck with the Featherfolk Punisher in mind, finishing off with Agnes, Muse Knight, etc. Virtuous Ether, tree generator, which you're gonna run anyway, and this is pretty neat. Great Sword Sister, too heavy a cost to pay for getting one card, so probably never gonna see play. Priest of Excess actually might see some play. Not for the 6 play point version, but for the Crystallize 2 countdown 1 banish around an enemy follower, especially with City of Gold. It's gonna make this a better heretical inquiry. Saintly Squeaks, put a natura and great tree into your hand if at least 2 allied amulets are in play. Gain Storm. The deck is coming together, man. It's happening. Sneak Attack. Countdown 2, fanfare of an allied natura and great trees in play. Subtract 1 from this amulet's countdown. Last word, summon a Meowskers, Rough Tough Major. Storm Strike, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader. It's honestly only okay, right? If you have a City of Gold and a tree in play, kind of tough. You're running out of board space, really. Play this and you get the Meowskers. And of course, more amulets just count down for your Agnes. Portalcraft, Dreadnought Gorilla. Storm Winston is going to be awesome. Awakened Ragna, deal 3 damage to a random enemy follower. Enhance 9, choose. Put one of these cards into your hand, discards your hand, and changes the enemy leader's maximum defense to 2. Jotet, though, basically has an Aegis effect, but your maximum play points becomes 2. Rush, reduce damage to this follower to 0, can't be affected by spells in effect except for those that change this card's attack or defense. And Izalue is probably the one I'm least excited by. It's if you have 4 or more cards in your deck, banish all cards in your deck until only 3 remain, and then banish all other followers in Amulet. So you clear the board, but then they can deal with it pretty easily. I think you can pull the strings this as well, which is actually kind of hilarious. I think Jotet is probably the strongest one. Just being able to not be affected by any spells and effects except for Jiraiya. You better hope you have that Jiraiya on you. Cannon Hermit Crab. At the end of your turn, if Resonance is active for you, or if an allied Natura and Great Tree is in play, summon a Cannon Hermit Crab and change its attack and defense to X, Y. X and Y are equal to half this follower's attack and defense. A well-statted threat that generates another threat and is a persistent threat that your opponent has to deal with. Artifact Call. 2 play points, put a random artifact card from your deck into your hand. If Resonance is active, put 2 instead. Amazing card. Incredible card. Insane card. Enhanced Tiger. Rush Strike. If there are no allied Natura and Great Trees in play, summon 1. If 1 is in play, gain +1/+1. I'm not sure if this procs all the time. Like, does this proc after this? So, like, you generate the tree and then you get the effect anyway? Or if there are none, you don't get this and only do this? I'm actually not sure. If this works with this, that's kind of great. If not, I guess summoning a tree is fine. Ines, Maiden of Clouds, 3/2/2. Can't be attacked. Whenever Resonance becomes active for you, deal 1 damage to all enemies. Again, more board clears in the game. I think this card's pretty sweet. And the fact that it's based off your Resonance is a really fun way to do it too. Enigmatic Ether. Put a Radiant artifact into your hand on the 10th turn. Just if you need that extra little damage. Hey, we were talking about that Vesha Herald of Ravage. There you go. There's your extra little ping that you need. Dazzling Archer. 7/4/6, deal 4 damage to enemy follower. Pretty trash. Crystallize 1, countdown 2, put Analyzing an Ancient into your deck. 2 useful artifacts for sure, but I think that there's better generators anyway, so I don't think it's necessary. Dollmeister, hand 6, put a puppet, give it Bane, trash. Drill Hedgehog, put your tree into your hand. If Resonance is active, get Rush. Not actually bad. Not amazing, but not bad, and it gives you a tree, so there you go. Doll Operation, give a random puppet in your hand +4 attack. In hand 7, put 2 puppets into your hand, and then give 2 random puppets in your hand +4 attack. On one hand, this again makes you less reliant on a Maisha OTK. On the other hand, it's a -1 card in your hand. Okay, I think on 1, as a combo piece. On 7, just to get puppets to trade into stuff. I can see this. Finally, the neutral cards. Viridia Magna 6/06 evolves to a 4/6 Rush Bane. Fanfare, if at least 1 tree has been destroyed, gain the ability to attack 2 times per turn. If at least 3 have been destroyed, give your leader the following effect. If there are no allied Viridia Magnas in play, summon a Viridian Magna, evolve it, and then remove this effect. This can take out 2 threats on turn 6, and then get back with a ward. Buys you time to play more trees, maybe useful for the dragon deck. I don't know when this effect procs. Does it proc just whenever there is none? Like as soon as your 1 Viridian Magna goes down, it just summons immediately? That'd be kind of awesome. Shiva, 6/5/6, ward fanfare, give your leader the following effect. At the end of your 6th, 9th, and 12th turn, restore 2 defense to your leader. At the end of your 7th, 10th, and 13th turn, give +1 attack to all allied followers. At the end of your 8th, 11th, and 14th turn, deal 4 damage to the enemy leader. De La Fie stats, and it can do some serious burn damage here. If you play it on 6, you're looking great. You're looking amazing. Pretty high hopes for Shiva. Desert Pathfinder, 2/2/2. Last words, if there are no allied Natura and Great Trees in play, summon a Natura and Great Tree. We've already talked about this. Gourmet Emperor's Kitchen. Deal 5 damage to enemy follower for 3. Actually incredible. That is amazing. And you can put Flaming Hot Fire into your hand as well. Such good removal. And it's neutral. You can run it in Rune as well for 2 spells. Extreme Carrot. Oh, he's back. And as horrifying as ever, last words, if an allied Natura and Great Tree is in play, put an Extreme Carrot into your hand. Oh, wonderful. Actually okay, man. Infinite value for your tree deck. Giving Gourmet 1/1 to an allied follower. If you have any natural cards in hand, give +2/+2 instead. Pretty slow, pretty bad. Alchemical Confectioner, 3/1/2. Randomly put 2 different natural cards from your deck into your hand. Probably pretty good. It's a lot like Pure-Hearted Singer, but specifically for Natura. This guy low-key looks exactly like Rowan. Like Rowan's little brother. Bowen or something. Put an investigation into your hand. Pretty bad. Traveler's Respite. Restore 2 defense to your leader. Put a Natura and Great Tree into your hand and change its cost to 0. Actually okay. I don't think that Alana needs it, but more heal, there you go. For other classes, yeah. Defensive, get a tree. Okay. And that is it. That's all the cards. We did it. We finally did it. All the cards from the new Verdant Conflict set reviewed. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. Like the video if you did. Don't forget to subscribe for more Shadowverse content in the very near future. And of course, thank you to my wonderful patrons. Patreon.com/Ignideus. Corgi, Battle Dog, Omega Venom, Captain Planet, Firstith, Sheppy, Adjective, and Philo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.